Well, hello, beautiful, wealthy women. It is Coach Tamara here with another amazing success story. So, this one is really going to move you because it's very much created from an origin experience that stayed with this beautiful woman and followed her until she was able to turn this into her dream business and help others transform their lives because of her special skill set and passion and understanding for the work that she is doing. She is an amazing woman, such an expert, and I'm really excited to introduce you to her. So please go ahead. I'm going to pass over the camera now. Tell us your name, the name of your business, all about your business and why you are doing it and how you can help others.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So, my name is Nancy Cooper. I consider myself an intuitive business strategist and feminine embodiment coach. I am the founder and creator of the Untangled Method, which is a 12-week, one-to-one intensive transformational coaching process. I would love to say that things started out easily for me in the coaching industry, but what kind of story would that be, right? If we all just started out and experienced success. That was definitely not the case for me when I first started. And it's interesting because the reason I struggled with success is because I kept trying to do what other people were doing or what other people were saying that I should do instead of actually honoring my own truth, my own journey, and my own expertise. And it wasn't until I took that step back and really reconnected to my why that things started to shift. I have a pretty unique story. When I was a little girl, I used to actually sit in front of my nightlight and cry and pray to this man that I never knew, but I had memories of. And so I had these very vivid memories of a life with this man and how much we loved each other and how deeply we loved each other. And I never understood what that was or what that meant. And as a child growing up in a Christian household, there was a part of me that was very aware enough to say, this is probably not something I should talk to anyone about. Like not a safe thing, kind of going into a danger zone, right? And so I harbored those feelings and I couldn't speak to anyone about them. I couldn't process them. I didn't understand what they meant. All I knew was that I felt this deep sense of loss and abandonment. And so this caused me, as I got older, to seek relationships for the wrong reasons. I kept thinking, maybe I'm going to find this person now, and that's why I have these memories. And so I would abandon myself through that process, and that would result in not positive relationship experiences. And it wasn't until I got into my early 30s that I started learning about things like past life regressions and past lives even. And so I started investigating this. And after doing some regressions, after learning a little bit more, I started learning that these were actual past life memories. And it was from a lifetime where we were in Scotland, and it was in about 1700s. And there was a situation where this man, who was my husband, was called off to war and he had to leave. And because he was gone and I had been protected by him, I was persecuted for being accused of being a witch and met my demise. So, because of this significant abandonment wound that was still being carried in my body, I was still moving through my life with that, constantly feeling like I wasn't good enough, constantly feeling rejected, constantly feeling like no matter what I tried to do, it wouldn't succeed. And so I continued to kind of investigate this, and I felt very strongly that this story was meant to be told. And so I actually wrote a book inspired by this story. There's a trilogy from it. The first two books are out. The last book is still in process of being written. And for anyone who's written a book, you know that's not an easy thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm working on it. But that story is actually where everything started because I put my first book out and I started promoting it on Instagram and social media. And that's when I started receiving messages from people saying, I have memories like that too. I have that too. And I've never spoken to anyone else about it. I've never thought anyone else had this. Me too, right? And so this really spoke to me. And this really told me that there are so many women out there that have memories like this, that have this unresolved weight that they're carrying within them from inherited trauma. Maybe some of us don't ascribe to the idea of past lives, but there's a lot of scientific evidence that pertains to inherited trauma from ancestors and generational trauma. And so we're carrying this stuff and we haven't known what to do with it or how to process it. And so adding that onto what's happened in this lifetime, it becomes this pretty complex thing within us. And so this is so often where people say, you know, I don't know why I self-sabotage. I don't know why this happens. And it sometimes can even be because of memories that aren't even ours. And so it becomes very difficult to pinpoint the why behind these behaviors because they didn't originate with us. And so I went down this rabbit hole of learning and discovery, and I applied my psychology background. I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I went to grad school for rehabilitation therapy. And so I applied this knowledge that I had, and I started moving through my spiritual gifts as well. And I first put together my program to help people heal what I learned was referred to as their witch's wound, which is that inherited wounding from past lives or ancestors, from that persecution, fear of if I show up and shine and am too bright, I will be persecuted for it. And from there, I started learning even more about how do we get to these memories, to these programs that are deeply engraved and implanted, that there's really no other way for us to figure out how to get to them. And that's where the untangled method was birthed. So it was this very long process. And I feel like so many of us think that when we launch a business or go into business, we think, okay, this is it, right? And that's not usually how it works out. It usually happens by us taking that first step, and then we get more clarity on the next step, and then more clarity on the next step. And this beautiful thing evolves and grows until we finally land with, this is what I was meant to be doing. And sometimes it doesn't look anything like what we thought it would when we first started.
And you can feel it when you're on track, right? Like when someone,
Absolutely.
you can sense when you're off track and when you're on track. And that is really a great way to trust yourself, your instincts, and your guiding light. What I wanted to ask you is many women are familiar with self-sabotage or
Mm,
limited mindsets, in all parts. And it definitely shows up with money and business things. So
of
this is
course.
definitely a conversation. I am, how can someone distinguish between what is their present life experience, belief systems,
Mhm.
and then those that maybe are coming from a past life? Is there a, if someone is going through something and they're stuck and they're maybe self-sabotage, for example, how can they know for a fact that it is of their present lifetime, their experience in this life, or potentially from the past life they don't even know? How do they recognize the difference? Are there clues that stand out that help someone to realize, oh, wait a second, this is a past life. This isn't a present moment scenario of my personal life in this moment, in this life
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna kind of two-part answer that.
Yeah.
Because one, there are some signs. Sometimes we'll find that we have this really unexplained fear of fire, or of water, or of confined spaces, or tight things around our throat, like a turtleneck. It's like, nope, not doing that. So there are some signs where it's like, why do I have this fear? I mean, when I was growing up, again, through my childhood, I used to be terrified when my parents would put a fire in our wood stove. I was terrified of it, and I had never experienced any type of fire in this lifetime that was devastational or catastrophic in any way. And so it was a very unexplained fear, an irrational fear. And it was because of an inherited past life. I won't go into that one, but it was another one that I discovered through my journey of discovery of these different things. But what I'll say with the second part of this answer is, whether it's from a past life and inherited, or from this lifetime, that's really honestly irrelevant, because at
Great.
the end of the day, it's still there. So it doesn't
Yes.
really matter. So some people ask, well, how do I know? Was this a past life, or is this
Right.
ancestral trauma, or whatever it is? And my answer is always the same. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We can spend all this time trying to figure out, like, where did this come from? Where did this come from? Or we can just acknowledge that it's there and clear it. Because
I
the
love
origin doesn't matter.
I love that you just said that, because I think that um it can feel like it's complicated enough when we kind of get a sense of that it came from our experience now, and then to potentially say it could have been something more. It could make someone feel overwhelmed. Maybe it's too
Mm-hmm.
complicated. How will I even know? How can I just get the help I need? And to go into a spin. And I love that you just said that. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're experiencing something that is not in a positive for you, and then you need to just help get the strategy and the solution,
Correct.
and you can move through it and move forward regardless of how it started, how long it's been there, where it came from, the whole nine
Exactly.
yards. So this is great. And so share a little bit about how do you help your clients with the transformations then? Like just a
Sure.
little peek into the world of what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, that's something that actually makes the untangled method so special, is because we're not sitting there trying to, like, pick at old wounds, if that makes sense, and trying to say, okay, well, what happened when you were 8? Or what happened when you know, who remembers, right? Who stores that stuff consciously?
That's
What
true.
we do is we actually guide our clients through very specific targeted questions to then identify, again, very specific blockages. And so it'll be really interesting each week as we go through the process, because we'll have clients say, I haven't thought about that in years, or I had no idea how much that was affecting me. And for them, maybe it was like a little thing. It was just a little blip, but that's what came up with this specific block that we're looking for through that untangling process, right? We have to start, and we keep going and we keep going until we've got it all laid out flat. And so
Yes.
that's what I find really fascinating, is we're asking very intentional questions to get to what we need to get to. And the beauty of it is every week it builds on itself. So one week we're asking and we're clearing out 5 different things during that session. And then the next week we go to a new level and we clear 5 more things. And so over the time that we're working together, we clear about 45 limiting beliefs and reprogram the events that happened to create those beliefs, no matter where they came from. And we also clear them out of the body. So we hold memories in our body with our emotions and as energy, right? So not only are we finding these specific things that are very important to get cleared out, we're reprogramming them and we're releasing the attachment and the emotional resonance from the body. So it's this multifaceted, multi-layered process that's highly effective.
I love this. And I wanted to ask you if you could share why you think it's so important for you or, your certified practitioners to help people to do this rather than them necessarily trying to do it themselves. And
Mm.
before you even answer that, I can share a quick little story about me. My whole life, I have grown up reading positive thinking books, very soulful, meditative, walks in nature, yoga, prayer, journal, all of it. I really know myself and pretty much thought, hey, if there's a block for myself, I'm intuitive enough, I'm soul centered enough, I should be able to know it, see it, figure it out. So I thought. So I had a situation that made me have a money block for, I would say, roughly about 2 years. And
Mm.
it affected my ambition level, which I was always ambitious. And then I was stuck. And I was mad at myself. I was frustrated with myself because I'm like, it wasn't my pattern. Like, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I
Mm.
moving forward? I have all the, it was just this for 2 years. And no matter how much I thought about it, self-reflected, I couldn't catch it. I wound up, and I truly do believe things show up in your path when you need them because there's universal energies or blessings that are waiting for you. And it just so happened that I got invited to a very well known coach to an in person event. And I was so frustrated. I was determined to raise my hand and get on stage. I wanted an answer and I couldn't get it. She brought me up, and the whole thing that she did took about 10 minutes, closed my eyes, and she asked these questions relating also to parents, how all I can't go into it all. All I can tell you is in 10 minutes, I knew exactly why I was stuck. She clarified exactly why I was stuck and instantly gave back that it wasn't even my wound, so to speak. It was
Mhm.
somebody else's, and I had to give it to them. It wasn't my responsibility to hold. And that freed everything. And I instantly got back in my momentum. And it was the exact reason I became a coach because I said, wow, I had no clue that coaches could be so transformative and helpful to somebody that was stuck for 2 years. And in 10 minutes, it was over with. And she could see in me what I could not see in myself, no matter how self reflective I was my whole life. And so I want you to please share. There are some out there that think, oh, I don't need all this stuff. I can do it on my own, sort of like I felt, but I kept
Yeah.
myself stuck
In
for two
there.
years and I got lucky. I would have been continuously stuck if I didn't have my path line up with this person.
Yeah.
Can you share why it is so important to have somebody guide you through the blocks that you think you can handle on your own?
Absolutely. And that's such a great question, too. Really, really important because I've been there. I've been there, very toxic, independent. Like, I've got this. I don't need anybody's help. I have a psychology background. I'm intuitive and psychic. I can talk to my guides. I can do it all on my own. But here's the kicker there. One, I do want to say we can absolutely do healing work on ourselves.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But when it comes to self sabotage, that comes from the ego, and the ego will never let us independently access what is causing that behavior. It is not possible. That is the entire job of our ego, is to keep us safe, which also pertains to keeping us stuck. And so, us on our own trying to find a solution to why we are stuck, it's not possible. We cannot bypass the ego. No matter how much we meditate, no matter how much work we've done on ourselves, no matter what, it's not possible. It would be like trying to read our own label that's on our back. Sometimes we need someone else to help us. Sometimes, we'll cut our own hair, right? But it's really helpful to have a friend that can do the back. Like, there are a lot of things that we can do on our own, so many things. And I'm a huge proponent of women learning to trust themselves, to trust guidance, to take initiative and aligned action in their lives. But when it comes to massive transformation, we need a mirror. We need feedback. There is no way, again, like we could cut our own hair, right? But a lot easier with a mirror though.
Yes,
Even
yes.
if we're just going to do that, right? Like we have to have something that will provide us feedback. This is often why we play out wounding over and over and over again with partners, right? Because partners mirror things back to us. And so we don't like that. We're like, gosh, I swear I keep dating the same man over and over again, or the same woman over and over again. It's like, yeah, because the thing that you're trying to subconsciously heal, that your mind is repeating because your heart wants to heal it, you're not aware of it. You can't see it. So you're subconsciously drawn to the same person in different bodies as an effort to heal this thing. But because you're not aware of it, we just keep going around on the merry-go-round.
And that's important. And women, think about this, right? So you want to create a successful business. You want success in all areas of your life. I am a living example of someone that was fully stuck and couldn't see it, couldn't get out of her own way. It is important to reach out and get that support. And this is why it's an investment in yourself. It is not a cost, because if you are paying a coach, someone that can help you to transform, it is an investment, because you are going to go in these circles and you're going to get frustrated. You're going to waste a lot of time that if you just clear it, you can get on with the things that you really want to get on with. So speak to the investment, like why it makes sense for people to work with you because of those transformations. And then I also want you to share about this amazing certification program you have, because there's a lot of healers out there. This is their life's calling. And I just think you have something brilliant for them. And I would love for you to kind of elaborate on that. And then we'll go into some of the success questions. But this is so juicy already that I might not even go through all of them, because I think we're really getting to the full body of what this is all about. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you got me all spinning and reeling in the certification option. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I forgot the first part of that question, what you wanted me to answer first before we went into that.
Sure, absolutely. The first part of it was to help women understand that getting coaching from you, your trainers, or any coaches in general, no matter what it might be, is an investment and not a cost. So maybe just to give them a little encouragement that it is the all the benefits and the processes, how they can line up for making that investment in themselves.
Absolutely. So I compare this with going to med school or learning everything on our own. This is about the ultimate way to collapse time. And for anyone who's on here that is intuitive, who is purpose driven, who considers themselves a healer or a starseed, they're going to understand this concept very easily. Collapsing time is not what so many people think it is. They think it's like, okay, if I meditate, I'm just going to jump timelines and I'll be over here. That's not how that works. Collapsing time means we actually are going to piggyback on what someone else already learned. Okay, so for the example, we could decide, well, I want to save a bunch of money and I don't want to have to pay for med school. So I'm going to go get my own cadaver and I'm going to dissect it. I'm going to learn it, right? I'm going to have to then buy all the microscopes, all the materials, all the equipment, all over time, right? And then even by the end of our life, we're still probably not going to know enough to make any kind of real impact on someone's life. Or we could invest in going to med school, and in 6 or 8 years, however long that takes, we're going to be able to leave there with the skills and knowledge that we need to go out and start changing lives. Which is really the better option. Thinking, oh, I'm going to save all this money, when in actuality, doing it all ourselves costs so much more money over time. The amount
Yes.
of money that we waste making mistakes, the amount of money that we waste hiring the wrong people or doing things that really didn't need to be done. Gosh, I can't tell you how much money I've wasted in my business doing things that just were not necessary, having to burn it down and restart because I'm learning and making mistakes and doing all that. Why do that when we can learn from what someone else has already done and then build from there? So I'm not saying we have to just say, okay, well, this is it. Like that's that. And I'll just do this. No, we always want to bring our own flair. We always want to bring our own knowledge. And this is actually a really good segue into the certification because that's exactly what it is. It is allowing for intuitive, purpose-driven women to come into a business model that everything's already done for them. There is a proven signature one-to-one high ticket transformational offer right there for them, ready to go. And not only is it done and ready, and it has a specific proven protocol, there's also the opportunity for them to still bring what makes them so special, unique, and powerful. So during the periods that we're helping to clear stuff out, they can bring their Reiki, they can bring their crystal healing, they can bring their sound healing, they can bring whatever unique abilities that they have, whatever certifications they have, whatever secret sauce that they have, they're able to bring that into this process. So they're not only utilizing what's there that I know works, but they can make it even better. And I want them to do that. So they get this offer that's amazing. And then they also have the whole business, like I say, business in a box. I do all the lead gen for them. I pay for the ads. I do monthly free workshops for their leads if they're talking to specific people so that they can connect and learn more about me. Everything's already built out. So sales funnels, sales pages, even content has been created. There's graphics. I mean, literally everything is there. It is like stepping into a fully built business that you just run with and bring your magic.
Okay, so I just want to share why I love this so much. So you can see there's two sides. So if you are struggling just as an individual, has nothing to do with building out a business in this capacity, but if you just need help because you have some blocks that you want to clear, this is where you go. If you're also the person that is a healer of some sort, but you're so passionate about what you're doing and you don't necessarily love or know how or want to do all of the business structural foundational pieces, again, this is what you are offering with your certification. It's a business in the box. They show up with their perfect passion, their healing powers to help and transform others. And they don't have to worry about all of the lead magnets or traffic sources or funnels and all of the things that can sometimes make us go crazy, right? And so
Yeah.
this is both parts are brilliant because it is a way to quick start your success, whether it's your own personal journey or it's a business journey. So I just wanted to kind of clarify there are many options here for you depending on what your specific needs. Both, I mean, we all can benefit from growing and learning about ourselves and getting help with our blocks. So that is always available to all. But if you have a business nature and need for this type of situation, I think the certification program is amazing. So before we
Yeah.
go into the success questions, can you please just say your website so that people know how to find out all of this amazing information about your work and all of your, all of your programs and where they can learn more about you?
Sure. So to make it easy, my name again is Nancy Cooper. And so the website is www.nancycooper.com.
Perfect. Okay. I love this. Okay. So now I'm so excited because we're going to go ahead and get into some of the success questions. which are always inspirational because so many of you women business owners might feel like going through what you're going through, to realize then through listening or watching these interviews that you're not alone. We've
Mm.
all been there in some capacity, and you'll find inspiration and encouragement from this. So let's go ahead and get started. My first question is, I'm a big believer in empowering routines, like morning routines and such. I call them wealthy woman habits. So do you have a specific morning routine or evening routine, and can you share that?
I do. And it's interesting because I used to, and then I kind of faded out of it a little bit. And as I've been stepping into more of a quantum leap for myself, I've known I really have to get back to that because it's so important, especially for mindset. And so in the evenings, I work on journaling pertaining to a limiting belief that popped up throughout the day. So that's one of the things that I do is I write down that limiting belief in my journal and I just start writing about it. It's so interesting too, because a lot of times I will find where it came from and talk myself out of it just by doing that journaling exercise. And so I find that it's a very powerful process to do, especially at the end of the day. Because if we can start getting feedback from our thoughts instead of judging them or criticizing them, they're a beautiful pathway into becoming the version of us that we need to be to have the results that we desire. So I start with that, and then I move into a meditation. Sometimes it's a guided meditation. I create a lot of guided meditations for myself and I share them openly on my YouTube. Or it'll be just sitting in silence and allowing visions and different information to come in. It really just depends on what I feel called to do based on what came up in the journaling session. And then honestly, I usually just relax watching it like an episode of a show that I like on Netflix or Hulu or something, and then go to bed. And then in the mornings when I wake up, I start my morning with another meditation that is a breath work. So I find for me personally, I have a really open third eye, but I don't know what it is. In the mornings, visualizing is just not for me. This is something I have discovered and accepted. And so what I like to do is I will start with a breath work exercise in the morning, about 10 minutes through meditation. And that is designed to really just raise my frequency and get me onto a frequency that's going to hopefully get me more aligned with the goals that I have for the day. And then after I do that meditation, whatever kind of came up for me or whatever I feel like might come up for me during the day based on what's going on in my schedule, I spend some time journaling about that before going on with my day.
I love this. One thing that you said stuck out to me. Now this is your whole work, so it may be more natural for you to
Mm-hmm.
catch your limiting beliefs. You were saying
Mm-hmm.
during the evening, like I think about what my limiting beliefs were and how I got myself stuck, and I journal myself out of it. I think for many of us, we don't even realize we might be having them during the day or even how to recognize it. So you are definitely trained to pay attention to this, but how can maybe the average person even realize that they might be having a limiting belief and catch themselves and maybe journal about it later and work it out?
They need to go through the untangled method.
I love that.
That's
I
really
agree.
honestly, I've
Hmm.
been through it twice now because I've been guided by certified practitioners through their training process. And so sometimes it's just easier where I'm like, okay, you just take me through it for their practice. And it's been really, really fun for me to see different techniques applied into the process. But as I've gone through it multiple times, I've gone kind of like that onion or the artichoke, right? It's like we go one layer and then we go back. And even though it's the same process, I usually recommend we wait at least a year because we want to let those things that we worked on really work themselves out. And then we get so much more awareness and our consciousness rises. So when we go through it again, there's new things that come up that are ready to be shed. And so by me going through it multiple times, my consciousness has elevated. My self-awareness is very high, and my emotional intelligence has increased as well by going through that process and identifying the emotions that were coming up with certain situations. Not to sidetrack, but something interesting that I've learned is that most people, if you ask them to list all the emotions they've experienced in their life, they usually only list about 3, and that's happy, sad, and angry. And this is a big reason why we're not able to self-regulate. We have a lack of self-awareness. Our emotional intelligence is stunted as a society because we're not being taught to understand what we're really feeling. So often things like anger, they're a type of fear. Something else is coming through with that. And so by actually understanding what's really going on or what really happened in that moment, that's when we're able to get to it and clear it out. But if we just think, well, I just get so angry when that happens. Well, yeah, I bet you do, right? Until we can actually get to the core of why that will continue to happen. And then we'll continue to self-sabotage relationships or our business or etc.
No, it's very true. And it's also like it's sort of like repetition is the mother of skill. It becomes a learned awareness. So
Mm-hmm.
like, and that makes a lot of sense. And then you, like you said, you'll have a developed and deepened awareness to the same thing. It'll just keep having its layers, and it
Exactly.
is pretty amazing because of that evolution of self growth and so forth. So thank you for sharing that. That was really
Yeah.
great. The next question has to do with fear and doubt. Maybe specifically, we'll talk about women in business. A lot of the two things that come up quite often is fear of being visible, going online and being visible, and also imposter syndrome. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe can you share if you've had these experiences and how you helped yourself get through it so you could push on to pursue the business of your dream?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Those are 2 of the biggest hindrances for especially intuitive, purpose driven women because of that underlying witch's wound.
Yep.
Honestly, it's that visibility and the imposter syndrome. They both are connected to the same thing. What if I'm accused of being a fraud and persecuted? Okay, that is the deep underlying fear. Whether someone gets activated and they're like, I'm not a witch. It has nothing to do with
No,
witches or witchcraft or anything like that. It has
it's the
to do with,
reptilian brain,
yeah,
right?
it has to do with the persecution that happened to women. They weren't persecuting witches. They were persecuting women. So as a woman, we're carrying that fear. And so there are a few different things that I can recommend when it comes to visibility first. We need to first get clear as to why we're afraid to be visible. Okay. Because a lot of times people just say, well, I'm just afraid of it. Well, let's get clear as to why. Well, I don't like the way that I look. Okay, well, what can we do about it, right? Let's do something about it. And at the end of the day, we're all going to still have things, right? I know I have a very asymmetrical face. I think it's weird, but a lot of people tell me that they find me very attractive. So I've just accepted it, right?
I said that right at the beginning of our interview. I said, you're so gorgeous, right? So there you go.
So it's so interesting. So I just have learned, I'm like, this is just what I look like, right? It just is. And so I can do the best I can, but at the end of the day, this is still just what I look like. So I can work on that. If it's about, well, what if I'm going to upset someone? Well, okay, so this means that there's a fear of rejection there. So we need to work on where that came from. Well, I'm afraid that someone's going to call me a fraud, etc. Then there's reasons, and then we need to get to the bottom of the causes of those reasons. And it's not again, like we can't look at our label on our back and be like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what it is, right? We need to have help to go through those things, because if we could do it on our own, let's be real, we would have done it by now. Let's be real. Just like when it comes to our business success, when it comes to creating a business, when it comes to creating an offer, all of these things, if we could do it on our own, it would be done by now. The reason it's not done is because we need support, and that's okay. So there's with visibility, very, very basic. But a lot of times the visibility is caused by the imposter syndrome. So, well, I'm afraid to show up because I don't know what to say. Well, we don't know what to say because we don't know what we do. This is a big conversation I have a lot with women when they come into my space. I ask them, well, what do you do? And it's a very generic statement. I empower women. I help them, become the best version of themselves, etc. And then I ask again, I'm like, great, but what do you do? And they don't know. They don't know how to quantify it. And so this is something that's very, very important for us to do in our businesses in general. We have to really understand our offer. And if we don't have an offer that we understand that has gotten quantifiable results, then yes, it's going to be very challenging to show up and talk about it, because we are going to feel like a fraud. We are going to feel like an imposter because we don't really believe in it. This is the beauty of the Untangled Method certification, because a lot of times when women are struggling with this, it's because they're trying to put an offer out that they've never tried. They're not quite sure about it. They don't know if it's really going to work or anything like that. So having an offer that's like, we already know this works. We already know people get great results. That takes that completely out of the mix. It also pertains to, with the imposter syndrome, it's that self-promotion aspect where it's like, oh, as an intuitive woman, it just feels really uncomfortable to promote myself, especially since there's this program in my body telling me, you don't even want people to know this about you because you could be persecuted for it. So why are you going to like actively promote it? But something switches, and I'm curious for the audience if they can relate to this, because a lot of times it'll switch when they're promoting someone else, when they're promoting someone else's offer, when they say, gosh, I had this amazing coach and I had this experience, it was so great. They don't have any issue talking about that. But when it comes to themselves, that's where the challenge comes. So when they have an offer now that they can promote that is theirs, but it's not, there's this sense of detachment that helps to alleviate that imposter syndrome as well, because they're not feeling like they're promoting themselves so much, but
Yes.
this amazing transformational offer.
Yes, exactly. I love that. And you were so correct on really understanding your offer, what you do, because it is everything for your business. It's how you word your business. It's how you speak. It's
Content.
how all of it, the content, everything, the way you show up. And also that imposter syndrome, one of the things that I find very helpful is when you remove yourself sort of from the equation. I mean, it's still you, but when you remove it, and it's not about you, it's about your service that can help somebody else. So it's about helping somebody else, serving somebody else. I find that that is the switch that goes off. Oh, it's okay. It's not about me. I want to be of service to other people, because that is a beautiful thing to do, to be of service. And this really kind of opens the gate also when they realize, okay, I'm not being so super proud of myself and bragging and all about me. And they realize that their offer offers transformation, and they have a responsibility to help people. That's their if you can help somebody, you have a responsibility. So you have to get in front of the camera. You have to show up, because it's not about you. You have a beautiful offer to help somebody, right? So
part of
that
our
gives some freedom.
responsibility, and our duty. And that's actually, it's interesting that you bring that up, because that's part of the training that is inside the practitioner portal. I go through how to launch your offer, like how to launch the business once you become a practitioner, and I break it down so simplistically, and I teach about what is the actual goal in what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people are struggling in their business because they think, I'm going to do something wrong if when someone raises their hand because they're interested, or someone DMs me and I start talking about my offer and then they ghost, or nothing happens, or they don't buy, that I've failed. And we have to completely wipe that idea from our mind, because that's not what we're doing. That's not the goal. Our goal is to help them find a solution. And so if that's what we're focused on, everything becomes feedback. Everything becomes the next step. So if I'm asking the right questions and I've been taught what right questions to ask, then I can help this person find the next step and next step. Maybe that is going through the untangled method. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's doing something else. Maybe it's a free lead magnet. Maybe it's a lower ticket program. So us being very curious and releasing these expectations, this is where it becomes fun because we're like, cool, hey, there's people here that I can just help and serve. This feels great.
Yeah.
It's a
And
complete
it takes the
different,
pressure off.
yeah, it's
It
a
takes all the
complete shift.
pressure off. Yeah, it's a game changer when you realize it's not about you, it's about them.
Yep.
I love that. Okay, I have one final question for you. And wow, I am loving this conversation. It is really, there is such a start and finish with what you are sharing that people can really see the evolution of change and how it can happen. And I'm very thankful for this beautiful interview. I would like to know, uh, on a typical day, how do you define your typical day of success? What does success look like to you?
I love that. It's interesting that you say that because that's the question I ask at the end of my podcast interviews. I think
There's so much in common.
it's such an important question for us to reframe what that looks like. And so for me, I feel like a successful day is one where I showed up with intention.
Mm,
That is a successful day because as much as I understand, we have to have discipline in order to achieve goals. We are also feminine energy that need to be in flow. And so sometimes I might start a day with a certain goal in mind, but then my intuition is telling me to do something else or to pivot. And so I need to be open to making those adjustments. I need to be open to listening to that feedback because that feedback knows better than anything or anyone else. And so that would be my definition of a successful day is that I showed up with intention and followed my internal guidance.
I, I couldn't say that better. I mean, that is perfect. It's exactly spot on, the right way to have that success. I am so thankful for this beautiful interview. Before we sign off, to share again where they can find you, your website address.
Sure, it's www.thenancycooper.com.
Okay, well, I, I mean, right? I mean, was this an amazing interview? I am just feeling so, what's lovely about this interview makes you feel so proud and robust to be a beautiful woman with all of this potential and special things that are only ours to have, that we can develop and expand upon and understand and evolve. And it's really, interview, it makes you proud to be a woman with intuition, and that just even your last response, you follow, you have a plan for the day, but if you listen to your inner guidance, this is the beauty of being a woman. And then
Yes.
taking this into a business for yourself, that is how you want to create your dream business. So listen to yourself. Listen, if you feel something's off, it is. Then
Mm-hmm.
find out more, get help, just start, really paying attention to you, your emotions, your feelings, the way you move, the energies you have. These are very important things. We move in a different way, we operate in a different way. We need to fully embrace that and accept that, and never try to be like anybody else but ourselves, and then enjoy that beautiful journey of developing your beautiful, wonderful self in all its forms: business,
Right.
relationship, self-care and self-love, family, all of it,
Yeah.
fitness. And then just enjoy enjoy it all and just keep going for your dreams. So thank you so much. I'm so inspired by this beautiful interview, and I know you are too. So thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time with another success story interview. Bye for now.
Okay.